All right, everyone. Wednesday. Let's talk about Celtic then. Stevie, sincere apologies for Sunday. I was watching the first half of the game and my eyes were just closing over. And it was nothing to do with the Celtic performance. I know you were ready to go after the game, so I'm sorry for letting you down, genuinely. And I say that in front of the thousands of people watching as well.
As I always say, don't worry about that. Listen, it would have been a half-hearted effort from me anyway. As you know, I wasn't in the game. Reidzo took my ticket. So, in all honesty, I think I dozed off for 10 minutes as well. So I would have probably hit it with the wrong score and all that anyway. Brilliant minute, brilliant that 4-1 win. Excellent. What a goal for Ida.
Aye, it was a bit of a struggle. I think I'm definitely going to have to go for a nap during the day if I'm going to stay up for these late games and do videos and edit videos afterwards. So yes, we'll work on that going forward. The good news is we've got you back on today, Stevie, and you're fit and firing. And it's an expression.
Oh, can I just get one thing out of the way? There's always a couple of comments with people saying that I look stoned and all that on these things, and it's people got to remember this is 11 at night, and I've recently, as you know, in the last few weeks, been going to a wee spa and all that, and it is so class. It's brilliant. So see if I do look, I'm just saying if I do look ultra, like as if I'm spaced out, just remember I've been in a steam room and a wee sauna and all that. It's brilliant. So people, enough with the stone part, please. I don't get near it.
Yeah. You're just about to go to your bed. I've just got out my bed. That's the way these things work when you're talking to the other side of the world. Anyway, you have just done a gig pod, haven't you?
Yes.
Should
yes,
just plug gig pod. Stevie's from gig pod. If you want or need more Stevie in your life, check out gig pod, available on all kind of podcast platforms. What was the chat tonight on gig pod then?
I was essentially just patting the team on the back for the win of the weekend. One eye ahead of St Mirren, but of course, as you can imagine, the Matt O'Reilly news was quite dominant towards the end, and I don't think Reidzo has a lot of faith in Celtic replacing him. The mug that I am, think they might do something different and replace him with the players that Brendan's after, because if they don't, I think the manager seriously might start looking elsewhere, which we certainly can't afford if we want to be serious, especially in Europe and everything. But yeah, so that was really the chat on it. Matt O'Reilly, I guess we were divided on it, but I think what we did agree on, that sadly it looks inevitable that he is going to go, and he will be a massive loss for Celtic. He's been a real pleasure to watch in the last few years. And of course, we're going to have star players move on. We've seen them all. I think we've always survived and coped after
Yeah.
better players than Matt O'Reilly have left the club. We still continue to win things and entertain. But you also have to look at just how good a player he is in this Celtic side, and I think we'll suffer without him. And this is why the manager and the recruitment. Sorry, I was about to say recruitment team there. This is why the manager and certain other people at the club are paid the big bucks. They need to identify a replacement, and I pray God that they've done their homework, because we can't lose a guy like him and just go to replace him with another punt. Just cannot happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that can be debated here, and we've got. I think I've picked out 6 or 7 of your comments from yesterday's video that I'm going to bring up probably later on in the video, and a few people calling me. Someone called me out of touch with reality, which is definitely true,
Correct.
by the way.
Yes.
With my kind of hopeful view that we could look at signing a number of positions. There seemed to be general pessimism, and I totally get that because Matt O'Reilly's moved on, but there's a lot to be debated. The one thing that no one can argue with, is that Matt O'Reilly is going to be a hard player to replace, because he's our best player at the moment. We've turned him into, and Brendan Rodgers in particular has turned him into a tremendous player, as good a midfielder as I've seen at Celtic in so many years. I mean, I think he's a fabulous player who's going to go right to the top of the game. So he's going to be really hard to replace. But as you say, Stevie, like that's what happens. Players leave Celtic. Like, we're used to this now. It's happened like every summer for the last few years. I mean, Jota, I absolutely loved, and he left, and we had to replace him. We arguably haven't actually done that yet, which is maybe a bit of a worry. And Brendan Rodgers saying that the recruitment team, the club need to look at kind of improving the recruitment department. I think he said that on Friday. That doesn't fill you with too much confidence either. But I generally am a glass half full person. That's more than half full. So I do generally feel positive about Celtic right now, but I get why people feel quite bad. As I say, we're going to sell our best player. Just the update on O'Reilly. The language is very interesting, Stevie. Outlets up in Scotland saying he appears to have played his last game for Celtic. I think somewhere said he'd almost certainly played his last game for Celtic. He's heading to Brighton for a record Scottish fee. I saw £26 million mentioned by someone. I think it was the BBC reporters at Keradine Idisan. I think he was saying that. Deal likely to be concluded in the next 72 hours. He could make his debut for Brighton in the Saturday lunchtime kickoff against Manchester United. So it's kind of hurts you a little bit when you read stuff like that. Just quickly, you sent me a wee thing just about 10 minutes ago on Brighton's recruitment. You've been reading into that. What's the story there?
I didn't finish it all. I didn't finish it
Fabulous.
all.
You're like one of these Facebook aunties who have shared the article before they've actually even read it. Brilliant.
To be fair, I was reading through it and then I made myself a wee tea. You know what I mean? Yoshi, don't worry about that. But it was essentially they were getting praised for the recruitment model, basically, and how the majority of Brighton transfers that are successes, no matter what, they'll buy players in, whereas even if they are viewed as punts, they are more than likely going to be making big money on them. And the most important part of the article that I sent on, that no matter what players Brighton bring in and sell, they always have a replacement lined up. That is that was a key part of the article, that there's never any panic. There's a structure there, and there's always in the background. They are constantly working on players, and they're working on different plans for players. So if a player doesn't work out, there'll be a loan transfer already lined up. If a player does work out, they're already thinking about how much they'll make and what player they're going to be coming in, because it's a continual cycle. And that's why when you look at Brighton, they've done relatively well down in the Premier as well. And another thing too is you bring in that, I think what's it called, the Amex Elite Football Performance Centre. If you look it up and you look at their training, I mean, obviously Lennoxtown for us. Imagine that for a football player. And you look at Lennoxtown and you think, this is the works. But then, if you go into the one I just mentioned, again, that was the very catchy Amex Elite Football Performance Centre. I mean, that costs double what Lennoxtown cost. It's got 11 full, full and half size natural grass and artificial pitches, indoor pitches as well. So when you look at what Brendan Rodgers has been screaming out for, especially in his first season at Celtic, you remember he wanted to see improvements like that at Lennoxtown. So I factor that in to with football players too. Like for Matt O'Reilly, Celtic for us is our life and it's everything, arguably. Whereas to Matt O'Reilly, guys like him, there's no emotional attachment. It's just a job, and it is a career for them. And you look at the stepping stone that Brighton are down there. Who's to say that after a couple of seasons, he's not going to go into a higher level? Because I agree with you. I think his ceiling was certainly the highest out of all the Celtic players, and I include Rio Hatate, who I think's a phenomenal footballer too. But I think Matt O'Reilly is going to go very, very far in his career. I get the argument that why is he leaving now? Why can't he play Champions League football and then maybe move on in January, move on in next summer? He might not get that opportunity again. Short career. Football moves very quickly. Or it could take him, he could pick up a bad injury, or he could be terrible in the Champions League, and all of a sudden, value dwindles. So, yeah, it's talk about the money and the figures and everything, but essentially we are just going to be missing a really, really good footballer, and I think Brighton for him is a pretty sensible move. I think he's quite similar to other players that have went there and thrived, and then you look at where they've ended up after there.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, probably from Matt O'Reilly's point of view. I know as fans we always look at it and think, why wouldn't you stay for another season? I think the reality is this is this is Celtic's transfer strategy. You buy players in, you have them probably for 2 seasons, maybe 3 if you're lucky. We've had Matt O'Reilly for 2.5, so that's kind of in that ballpark. As you say, you improve them, you bring them up to as high a level, the level where they become like superstars in terms of Scottish football, and then you move them on. And I don't have a problem with like any of this at all. The whole Matt O'Reilly stuff, I don't have a problem with. The fact we're selling them, the price we're selling them at, the time we're selling them at, because we don't really have much control over the time. I'm content with all of that. I'm going to be really sad to see him go because I love Matt O'Reilly. The team's going to be weaker without him, but this is Celtic. This is what happens these days. This is the kind of club we want to be. My big thing is the replacement, and you speak about Brighton there. And even Celtic a couple of years ago, albeit not with £25 million sales, but like we replaced Josip Juranovic really well with Alistair Johnson. He was in before Juranovic had even been sold, wasn't he? We tried it with O and Giakoumakis. Again, O was in before Giakoumakis left. Didn't massively work out. But it just seems to have really kind of gone awry since then. Like, I mean, the Jota stuff didn't really work out. It didn't seem smooth. It seemed a bit panicked with Palma, who was probably viewed as a Jota replacement last summer. Obviously, Lagerbielke and Starfelt was another obvious one that hasn't worked out. So my big question is, will the club have a replacement lined up if and when Matt O'Reilly moves on, and how quickly can we expect that to move? Because we're hearing Arne Engels is kind of the main name people are saying. Alvin Sanchez as well, Stevie. We had Tanner Tessman. These are real names, by the way. They're not made up in any way. What's your thoughts on the replacements?
In all honesty, and I've not seen any of them play, so I can't talk. But
yeah,
what I do know, we've got 10 days, haven't we, to bring in. I think Brendan wants 2 players in. So I'd imagine one player will probably be like the O'Reilly replacement coming into play and being the light for light replacement, and he'll probably want another one as a backup, perhaps as well. I think that's for the boy Sanchez. I think you mentioned he's 20, playing in Switzerland now. Engels, for what you were saying, Augsburg as well, but I've just not seen enough of them to comment. But that's what I was saying on GigPod to Reeds was give it a few hours. There'll be like a YouTube compilation, John Newman, Rudimental, Can You Feel the Love? And I'm sure when we watch that, they'll be saying, aye, we'll buy these guys, it'll be brilliant. You know, so yeah, speaking honestly, no idea what to expect, but we've got 10 days to do it and we have to do it quickly. I think my big one for me is the fans have generally maybe thought that I felt Matt O'Reilly was going to be away all summer. There was all that speculation, and I've had it in my head since July. And I guess the big question I've got is, surely we should have been looking at replacements far sooner than leaving it 10 days now? Because my big concern is, if we are now looking at a replacement for O'Reilly, Celtic say rake in £26 million, and they've not been shy about boasting how much money they've got there to spend. Other clubs will actually see that figure and they'll see everything that Celtic have said about we've got this in the bank and we're doing so well. So see Celtic try and lowball a team for a few days and go 8 million, there you go. These other teams will go, nah, look at that. You're rating 26 million for O'Reilly. We'll be looking for at least somewhere near 16, double. You've got the money to spend it. And that's my worry with Celtic. Will they spend and be ambitious as the fans? Because if you look at historically, they never are. I mean, when they sold 1920 season, when we sold Kieran Tierney, I think for 25 million, wasn't it, to Arsenal? You look who we got in. It was Greg Taylor was in for just under 2 million that time. So there was all this talk at the time of, oh, aye, Bolly, that's right.
Yeah.
Aye, I liked him. But there was all this talk about, was it that boy for Rosenborg? Like every week.
Your pal Burger Melling.
There was all that talk about him, a fit and dynamic left back that was maybe going to cost 5-6 million, but it would have been a light for light Tierney replacement. in the end, I guess we downsized, and Greg Taylor has worked out for us, but it could have been also different if we spent proper money on a player as well, instead of waiting for maybe 3 seasons to get the best out of him. We could have had one hitting the ground running. So that's what we have to do with this Matt O'Reilly replacement. We can't be a player coming in, waiting 2 or 3 seasons before we go, oh, he's done all
Yeah.
right. Has
Yeah.
to hit the ground running.
I agree.
And again, it's so important because we have got a very critical season in Europe, and this is where we're going to be judged, I feel.
I agree totally with that. Because you look at Matt O'Reilly, and it's funny because Matt O'Reilly's a tremendous player now, clearly. And he was fine when he first came in, but like Matt O'Reilly in his second season didn't score his first goal until the middle of February. And it's only really since Rodgers has come in and his game has gone to that different level. So obviously Matt O'Reilly's turned into a great player. My point would be, if you're looking at signing 2 midfielders, if we were signing Matt O'Reilly now, if this makes sense, he would be the second one, if that makes sense, and I'd be looking for a bit more of a proven player. I say proven, I still think they're going to be pretty young. I don't think we're going to go for like a 27 or a 28-year-old, because I think we're going to want that sell on again. But I think you'd be looking for a player who's done a little bit more, probably at a higher level, and is more likely to come in and be a star sooner than O'Reilly was. So someone, I think, someone like Engels, I just think that quite excites me. Looking at him, he's been playing in Bundesliga. He's fringes of the Belgium setup. He's been viewed as a future Belgian player. Very unlucky, by all accounts, not to make their squad for the Euros. He seems to be very highly rated. He's at a price we can afford. We know that now. Celtic can go up to that kind of £10 million fee, because we did it for Adam Ida. So I think that kind of replacement, if we move O'Reilly on and get Engels in, I'll be feeling fine about it. My worry would be that we move O'Reilly on and we don't get Engels, we go for a bracket down, and I'm not as sure about Sanchez. I think he's highly rated, but is he more of a punt than Engels would seem to be? Looking at Engels, and again, I've not seen him, but I'm just going off what people are saying, that wouldn't seem to be too much of a risk for me. I think from the sounds of things, Engels, his stock is rising, and coming to Celtic feels like a relatively sure thing for me.
I think the only thing that I would say with Engels, that again,
the G's silent, by the way, Stevie.
Oh, what's this?
Engels, according to Derek Ray, who we know is very good with these pronunciations.
Load of nonsense. He'll be getting called Engels, end off, all right? The only thing I would say is, again, I guess it's with Matt O'Reilly, I guess, when he signed from MK Dons at the time, before he joined Celtic, he wasn't really known. Well, actually, no, he scored 10 goals, I think, in 40 odd games, because there I go. I was about to say he wasn't known as a goal scoring midfielder, but that's a pretty decent return. And then when I look at Engels, yes, Hamish Engels, 3 goals, and I think it's over 50 appearances for Augsburg. So that's my concern. I think
they're different types of players. I think he's a bit more defensive, but that can work. No, just the balance of the team would just be a bit different. But maybe it would allow more space for someone like McGregor or Hatate, more responsibility.
Or he could be developed like Rodgers developed Matt O'Reilly too. I get it. But cliche coming in here, but it's a case we have to wait and see. But they have to get this one right. They really do, and it's massive. And well, I was thinking too, when you remember the way, I think Matt O'Reilly he just reminds me of a successor with the way Stuart Armstrong was. We didn't have a player like Armstrong. Obviously, he had that great first season, then he left and he didn't recover 17-18. But a lot of that was down to an injury I think he had. Then he moved on to Southampton. But yeah, I would say, I don't think I'd see Brendan Rodgers transform a player like Armstrong ever again. But what he did with Matt O'Reilly was phenomenal. Going for a player that it was a goal scoring threat to an extent, but it was very comfortable. I was feeling under Angelo. He was really, really weighed in with assists, but you were always waiting for him to take it up to the next level. Like against Rangers, for example, I criticised him for going missing a lot, and then last season he just showed up and he was a big dog in every single one of the games, other than the final. Other than that, he was weighing in with either goals or assists. It was terrific. So, yeah, All the pressure is on Celtic, as it rightly should be. But if they're going to take the glory for the fee that they're going to get, they have to be. I mean, that is quite right that the pressure is on them, that they have to now invest that wisely, Hamish.
Yeah, if and when Matt O'Reilly moves on, I want to see Celtic moving quickly, and I want to see us going for Arne Engels. I'm quite convinced that he'll be a good signing from things that I'm hearing. So hopefully that's the case. Hopefully we don't have issues with that. That would be my fear. Time would go on, and then we end up panicking and going for a loan or a player who's not at the level that we need, because, like I repeat, replacing Matt O'Reilly is going to be really difficult. He's as good a Celtic player as I can remember for a number of years. But this is the model. I think Ange said we need to be agile in the transfer window. We're about to find out how agile prepared.
Can I just say one thing, if that's all right? Like, I remember I was so fearful when we lost Stilian Petrov. You remember what type of player he was? Box-to-box midfielder. If he wasn't scoring, he was weighing in with assists. He was a real threat for midfield. He was the complete midfielder for Celtic. And then I remember Aston Villa, I think it was in 2007, came out with a bid for him. 6 million at the time, I think it was. No, 2006.
2006, it was my first season ticket.
And I remember, thinking, are Celtic going to get this one right? Will we recover? And we did, although, to be fair, memory in that season, I think Jarisic was our main man from midfield, nowhere near the levels of Petrov, but I think the team combined more. We relied, it was Nakamura got us out of jail so often that season, and I think, again, the style, I mean, we're going to be missing Matt O'Reilly. The goals will always come from somewhere else, but I think somebody else will have to pick up being a talisman for Celtic. So it's another challenge for an existing player. Not only the Matt O'Reilly replacement coming in, but who in the Celtic squad can then pick up the mantle and basically grab it with the scruff of the neck and go, no, I'm going to be the main man here.
Well, you know who I'm thinking of? Rio. I think it's Rio's opportunity, to come, and I think Hatate's as talented as O'Reilly. I don't know if people would disagree with that, but I think Hatate just needs to show it now. He needs to stay injury free and really show it this season for us. But I think Hatate, you could be looking at him going to a team like Brighton in a couple of years, maybe a year, for similar money. So he has to step up. Listen, we've still got, it's not as if things are falling apart just because O'Reilly's leaving. He's one player. It's a very good player, but it's just one player. We need to replace, and we still have a lot of quality around that team. So that's why I still feel generally positive. But let's just see what happens in the final 9 days of the window. Celtic have got a lot of work to do to get us to where we need to be for the UEFA Champions League. That's the big challenge. Gustaf Lagerbielke seems to be heading. Stevie, he's off to Mirren, Eredivisie side, of course, former side of Georgios Samaras, I believe. Seem to remember seeing compilations of Samaras scoring goals for them.
They play in that kit with the love hearts on it, don't they? They've got that gimmick.
Yes, I think. Blue and it's like Kilmarnock kit, isn't it?
Aye, with the love hearts on it. Well, good for him. Good for him. I mean, I think we did say in the last video when we were doing it, he needed a move and Celtic needed to offload some players. So, again, another one that makes sense. He's not going to get a chance. So, yeah, he might as well try somewhere else.
Yeah, advanced talks over a season-long loan deal, apparently, for Lagerbielke. Heerenveen Chief Executive Ferry de Haan told Leeuwarder Courant, said it is not a done deal yet, but we are hopeful that it will work out. So it seems like that's the way things are heading. I agree. I think Lagerbielke, I don't think he's even really been in squads so far this season, so he's obviously not fancied by Rodgers. He's one of the ones we want to see moved on. It hasn't worked out. It's been a pretty poor signing, all things considered. So hopefully he'll go out and play some football up against Feyenoord as well. Obviously, he's got good memories against them. So yes, I've got a wee list of names for you here, Stevie. And we can just say whether we'd keep, sell or loan them between now and the deadline. So number one, and we don't need to spend too long on this, number one, Hyunjin Yang. What's your thoughts?
Loan.
Yeah, I'd be the same. He's come on in a few games. He actually kind of looked lively-ish at the weekend, but I'm not convinced.
I bodied that on Beck last season as well, remember?
He has good games, but I'm just... you get the impression that if it ever comes together for Yang, he'll be a player, but I'm just not convinced it will. So I'd loan him out to another Scottish team. Ideally, I'd love to see him at Hibs or Aberdeen or like Dundee United or St Mirren. I'd love to see him at one of those teams and just to find out how talented he really is. So we're both agreed loan. Odin Thiago home.
I think he needs a loan as well. I'd loan him out.
I wonder if that's why we're looking at two midfielders, if we have a
Sanchez, good shout.
Because say O'Reilly goes and we sign two players, you're looking at having McGregor, Hatate, Bernardo, Iwata plus two, so that's 6 players, and home would probably be 7th in that list. So I wonder if we want to loan him out.
Aye, loan him out as well. Don't think he's featured since, God, it was at Ross County, won each game maybe? No, 1-0, we beat them 1-0, but it was dreadful.
He was in pre-season, wasn't he?
I'd loan him.
Yeah. Right, Mike Naropski.
Keep.
Yeah. We're just going to agree the whole way through this. I agree. I'm not convinced he's going to play too much, and we'll wait and see if we sign a centre back. But
yeah,
I just think Naropski. I was so excited when we signed him, and I think injuries have been an issue. He hasn't always looked comfortable. He's had good games, bad games. I don't think we're at the point yet of selling him, and I don't see I think he's kind of probably third choice centre back still at the moment, isn't he, when he's fit? So I wouldn't loan him out either. So I agree, keep for Naropski.
Plus, Miloski's left Aberdeen, so he's not going to get terrorised again if he goes up there.
Right, Yuki Kobayashi.
Sell.
Yeah, sell. I wonder if we will sell him or whether it will be a loan, but clearly doesn't have a future. Tomoki Iwata.
Keep. I like Tomo.
Yeah, I wasn't actually going to. I don't know if he deserves to be on this list because he's. I think he's kind of probably better than a lot of the players in this list. But I've just noticed a bit of chat over the past couple of days about Iwata, and it's from fans just saying, what's the situation with Iwata? Should he be moved on? But I think Iwata's just a really reliable and good squad player to have around, and I think he'll play games this season when various players are missing and stuff like that.
Yeah, especially he's versatile too. So, Celtic will love to sign certain players in certain positions because they can just say, oh no, he can play there. So that gets them out of that one. But no, I do like Iwata, and I'd like to hopefully see him stay.
Adam Montgomery. Now keep in mind the homegrown stuff for our final 3 players on the list here, but Adam Montgomery.
Still really got to sell him. I don't think he'll kick a ball for Celtic again, but he should be going elsewhere, I think. So I sell.
I think at the moment you've got to keep him, but if we sign a left back, then you'd be looking at doing that. But he's like our second choice left back at the moment. Do I think he's got much of a future at the club? Nope. But yeah, that's the way things are. Next one, we've got Stephen Welsh. Again, homegrown stuff here. Stevie.
I would sell him because I think his career could benefit from getting more game time. I think there's a decent player in there. He won't be playing for us, but I can see him having a long career at Celtic just as a backup, like the way Scott Bain basically is.
I was going to put Scott Bain in the list, but I didn't bother. And finally, Mikey Johnson. Been a bit. Brendan Rodgers was talking about Mikey Johnson at the weekend. He's fractured his eye socket, I believe, or he's got some sort of injury like that, certainly to do with his eye socket. So Mikey Johnson, for me it's sell it at this point. Yeah.
Again, not in a better way. I just think his career could benefit. Look what he did when he was in the Championship. So
strange how that just petered out. Because remember there was all the chat about how good he was, and then Just West Brom.
Did they not win Player of the Month or something?
Yeah, he did. Okay, we've made it through that wonderful little segment. We might bring that back next year or something like that. Just a few comments, Stevie, I'm going to go through. You can chip in at any stage if you want. So we've got Green Reaper saying, I don't think we'll sign anybody else. The board are actually lacklustre in finding new recruits and or willing to pay for them. we're going to sign a player, aren't we? But I guess that just sums up how people are feeling generally, and we don't have
Yeah.
much trust in the recruitment team.
Yeah, totally. You can't turn around and say to the guy, "Oh, away you go," because this board have a lot of making up to do to the supporters to show they're ambitious. I personally do think they'll sign with someone, especially with the Champions League packages round the corner, and they'll certainly they'll have one eye on that. And can you imagine the uproar if they didn't replace O'Reilly with anyone? No, I don't think it's realistic to suggest that we won't bring in anyone. But I can certainly understand why people would say that because look who run us.
Yeah, I feel like there's a middle ground. Some people are going, "Oh, this is just an absolute disaster. We're not going to sign anyone," and then other people, maybe some would say, "I'm near this category. Oh, we'll be absolutely fine. We'll sign players." I don't think I'm that far, but I think some people would certainly be like, "Oh yeah, we'll be fine. We'll sign players." I think the reality is somewhere in the middle, that we're not going to get in everything that we require, but equally, I don't think we're going to be going into the season with like a absolute state of a squad, and like having to play players in other positions. I think the squad will be fine for the season, certainly domestically. I think it's the Champions League stuff and that real quality left back, centre back. As I said yesterday, I'm getting concerned about the whole centre back situation, whether we're going to sign a player there. Onus M911, won't be getting my hopes up that Celtic will pull anything out the bag in the last few days of the window. We've needed a left back and centre half since January. I think January 2021 for the left back, and haven't acted yet. Engels, Traore, O'Shea and Windal would be great, but pipe dream stuff at this point. Who's Traore?
Oh, I don't know. Who's that? I've not seen
Not
any
sure.
Traore stuff.
Not sure. Let me
No,
give it a
I don't
quick
know.
Google.
Well, it wouldn't be that Adama Traore, would it? Because he's obviously played for Fulham and right out of our bracket. So
Yeah,
I don't know
not
who that
sure.
would be.
Not sure. John O'Neill, you're daydreaming, Hamish. At an absolute maximum, we will have replacement for Matt and a left back on loan. There is no evidence to show that we will move with urgency on transfers. Oh, I would love to be wrong.
I think that's. I think to be honest, Amy, she kind of sums it up. Like we would all love to be wrong. We'd all love to. I don't think we come on here and want to be like doom and gloom, sorry, and pessimistic. And I certainly don't want to do in 10 years. 10 years, God's sake, I won't be around in 10 years. In 10 days' time, I don't want to say that the people that watch this and go, "Oh, I told you we were in the plan." Like I want Celtic to shut me up. I want Celtic to actually be ambitious. I want Celtic to show that they're taking European football really seriously. I want Celtic to show that they actually have planned for Matt O'Reilly, and I want Celtic to show that there's a strategy there and there is a general grand plan. So the challenge is there for them. I mean, I don't think that people who are doubting them, I don't think you can blame them for how Celtic have acted and how they've let people down in the last few years. Yes, we've won things, but I mean, there's been mitigating circumstances for it. And of course, you look at this sheer amount of work that Ange did, practically himself, to get titles over the line. Yes, the money came for the club, but Ange was doing the recruiting and Ange was doing the bulk of the work that he shouldn't have needed to. So you look at all the factors and you look at the resources we've got. Of course, we are still going to win the trophies like you would say every season, but you want to take that step up. So um, again, I wouldn't say you're daydreaming. I think you're right to be positive getting into this now. We started really well this season. We've played really good football, and
yeah,
we looked as if we were serious in pre-season, and we've carried it on, and we do look focused. So it's just about building on that feel-good factor and showing that they are serious for everything that I just mentioned. So I dearly hope they do shut us up, and if we're doing something after the transfer window, we're celebrating it basically. Because how much of a buzz would that be if we got in some real quality before we play Rangers at Celtic Park? That would be. Can't get over how good that would feel. You would just feel that we really were taking it seriously, and the board and the club finally were matching the fans' ambitions, and we were all actually united together because it would be great. We don't want to see division all the time. It's boring. It's totally tiresome. So that is my as Martin Luther King said, I have a dream.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on that dream as we go forward. Right, Darren FTK, guaranteed we are all underwhelmed come the end of the window. Always the same with Celtic, unfortunately. And Joe Scottish, hey, we're prepared. That's why we got Paulo Bernardo, who has the potential to be as good as O'Reilly. I think Bernardo's going to turn out to be a really good player for us. I just think you would certainly need to replace Matt O'Reilly now as well, even just in terms of numbers. So yeah, thanks everyone for sending your comments in. It's always good to get a feeling for how people are feeling, because I'm just one person, we're just two people, but you get a general consensus from people, and people generally seem to be quite pessimistic. I get it, we're selling our best player. I just think there's lots to be positive about as well, but it may be one to properly look at the end of the window. I know that's difficult these days when everyone needs an opinion now, and me especially doing these videos, I need to kind of give thoughts right now. You can't just put your thoughts off. But yeah, let's see at the end of the window where we're standing with these positions. But what I would say, there's a lot of work ahead of the club over the next 9 days, a lot of positions needing filled. And let's hope, as Stevie says, he can prove us wrong. St Mirren this weekend, Stevie. We're playing really well at the moment. We're right to be feeling good about our chances in any match domestically. But I think it's a tough one this weekend. I think it might be a bit of a challenge away to St Mirren. Probably our toughest match of the season so far.
Yeah, it's definitely our first challenge, I would say, of the season. I think the opener, obviously, against Kilmarnock, had one eye on Europe, and then the two games against Hibs, who I don't want to keep going on about them, but they were a disgrace. St Mirren will be tough. Anytime I've watched them this season in Europe, they've been really good. They turned over Valour, and they were very good against Brann. So unlucky, and getting a draw against Brann at home as well. Like, that was a big result for St Mirren. Looks like they're doing things right off the park. They're bringing in the right type of players. I don't know if they've brought in Sean Rooney as well. They've given a contract to Alex Gogic, who was outstanding for them last season. And just that St Mirren seemed like they're a physical team, but when I've watched them this season too, they have actually played a bit of football. The game, although in saying that, obviously not infallible because they get beat against Aberdeen. Although I would say they were tiring after the Brann game. And of course, they get beat against Dundee United, of course, on the back of the European match. So I think their defeats have came from the fact that they've got a threadbare squad. They can't really cope with playing Thursday to Sunday. No shame in that. It was a big thing for St Mirren, just being in Europe. But yeah, they've had a whole week to recover, and I think they'll try and make it really difficult for us. But you remember as well, we went to St Mirren last season, got a really comfortable 3-0 win, and we beat them in the cup. So yeah, I think it will be a tough game, but we've got it well within us to win as well. And I do predict a win. I think we'll get 3 points, but will definitely be a difficult game. And we've seen Celtic stroll in the last few weeks, practically unopposed. I think it will be it will be a good old-fashioned ugly win, I think, on Sunday. But I'm confident that this Celtic team have got enough to do it.
Okay, looking forward to it. Should be a big one. Plenty of previewing to be done before then as well. Just before we go, enjoyed this from Jeremy Frimpong. From Celtic to Bayer Leverkusen, his 2 trebles. Stevie, not many people of that age have won 2 trebles. The latest one, by the way, Bundesliga, DFB Pokal and DFB Super Cup, obviously with Bayer Leverkusen. So great stuff. Good to see former Celtic players flourishing. Yeah. Right, Stevie, thank you for your time once again. Much appreciated. Get to your bed. And I will get editing this video. We'll catch up with you all tomorrow. Speak to you then.